People are going to betray you. That's not a guess, not a possibility. It's a certainty. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll stop living like a victim. Do you want to know why? Because human beings are, by nature, profoundly self-centered. And no, I'm not talking about the childish kind of selfishness, the kind that refuses to share a piece of cake. I'm talking about a primal, ancestral selfishness, a wild instinct programmed over thousands of years to prioritize personal survival above any sense of loyalty. You think betrayal is the exception, that it only happens when something breaks. You're mistaken. Betrayal is the norm. Loyalty is the exception. And Carl Jung understood this deeply. He didn't shout it, but he revealed it through shadow work, through the exploration of the unconscious. Don't trust the mask of civilization we all wear, because behind it, there are teeth, and they are sharp. Have you been betrayed? Welcome. Are you waiting for a logical, emotional, or spiritual explanation? You won't find one. Because betrayal doesn't come from reason. It comes from fear, from desire, from an inner need that outweighs any promise someone made to you. Do you want the truth? Here it is. They didn't betray you because you did something wrong. They betrayed you because it was convenient. And that's all. Most people don't betray out of malice. They do it out of benefit. Because at some point, you stopped being useful. Because someone else offered more. Because their fear of loss was greater than their loyalty to you. It's not personal, it's worse. It's structural. It's embedded in how the human mind functions. And yet you keep acting surprised. You placed your trust as if the world was built on principles, on morality, on ethics. But the world runs on interests. Loyalty is a luxury. Few can afford it. Want a brutal truth? Never expect someone to act in your favor if it goes against their own. Because the moment their interests collide with your well-being, they will crush you. And they won't even feel guilty, because the human mind is brilliant at justifying its actions. They'll betray you, turn their back on you, and convince themselves they did the right thing. They'll say they had no choice, that it was an accident, that they didn't want to hurt you. And the worst part? They'll believe it. They tell themselves that story so they can sleep at night. But you're the one left with the wreckage. Let me make it even clearer. If you expect the world to be fair to you, just because you're fair to others, you're heading straight toward martyrdom. No one will repay your kindness. No one will respect your values if they clash with their desires. And here comes the most painful question. Why did that person betray me? The answer is simple. Because they could. Because there were no consequences. Because it cost them nothing. And here comes the first psychological punch. People are only as loyal as you make them be. You think fidelity comes from love, from affection, from shared history. Number fidelity is born from fear. Fear of losing something. A relationship, a privilege, a position, a sense of status. When someone betrays you without a second thought, what they're really saying is, you weren't that important, or at least not as important as what they got in return. And that hurts more than the betrayal itself, because it reveals something you didn't want to see. You overestimated your place in their life. Jung taught that betrayal often reveals the contents of the shadow, the denied truths, the parts of ourselves and others we don't want to acknowledge. He said that what we don't make conscious will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. People don't fail you because they were ever truly with you. They were with the image of you, the benefit of you, the version of you that was easy. But once that version changes, they vanish. They'll look you in the eye, tell you that you can trust them. swear they'll be there for you, but what they won't say out loud is the silent condition, as long as it doesn't cost me anything. Have you noticed how, in the hardest moments of your life, most people disappear? It's because true loyalty has a price. It requires sacrifice, and most aren't willing to pay that price. They'd rather invent excuses, say you've changed, that you're different now, that you're negative, demanding, toxic, whatever it takes to justify their absence. And here comes another punch of truth. Betrayal doesn't hurt because of what we lose. It hurts because of what it reveals. It reveals who we were in that relationship. Naive, idealistic, blind, devoted. And it reveals who they truly were. Opportunistic, self-serving, unstable, cowardly. The most terrifying part of betrayal isn't the act itself, but the unveiling, the realization that everything you believed was a lie. And that's where paranoia begins. You start to look at everyone with suspicion. You no longer know who is who. Because if that person, the one you trusted blindly, was capable of stabbing you in the back, then what is everyone else capable of? Distrust floods in, and with it, loneliness. But here's the part no one talks about. At this point, loneliness becomes a privilege, because after a betrayal that is real, deep, and brutal, you can no longer afford to be surrounded by wolves in disguise. Betrayal is a purge, a painful cleansing, a necessary severing. And yes, it costs you dearly, because you still love that person. You still remember what you shared. You still wish they'd come back. But what you're longing for isn't them. It's the illusion. And that illusion is destroying you. You must let it go. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden aspects of ourselves we refuse to see. Betrayal brings the shadow to light. Not just theirs, yours. What doesn't kill you can make you stronger, but only if you understand it. Because if you don't, what doesn't kill you will leave you broken, bitter, distrustful. Not stronger, just more closed off. Do you want to grow from betrayal? Then stop idealizing. Stop justifying. Stop romanticizing pain. Accept that human beings are infinitely capable of failure, that no one is immune. And yes, even you, at some point, have been the betrayer in someone else's story. Betrayal exists in all of us, but so does the power to choose, to decide who you will allow to hurt you again. If someone betrays you once, that's on them. If they do it twice, that's on you. Because here's the rule no one wants to accept. Your responsibility isn't to avoid betrayal. It's to ensure it doesn't happen again. And that's only possible in one way, by refusing to idealize. See people as they are, not as you wish them to be. Ask uncomfortable questions. Watch how they behave when no one's watching. Listen to how they speak about others, because that's how they'll speak about you when you're not around. And most importantly, learn to disappear when someone betrays you. Don't explain. Don't beg. Don't seek revenge. Don't try to understand with logic something born from cowardice. Just disappear. The harshest punishment for a traitor is your absence, your silence, your void. Because traitors don't expect real consequences. They expect drama. They expect tears. They expect attention. Give them the one thing they don't expect, nothing. And build from the pain, the rage, the abyss. Make that betrayal your foundation. Not to prove anything to them, but to remind yourself that you're alive, that you're awake, that you don't need anyone who can't hold true to their word. Remember this: betrayal reveals, but it does not define. You are not what was done to you. You are what you do with what was done to you. And if you can stare betrayal in the eyes without becoming what you hate, then you have won. Because right there, in the fire, in the silence of abandonment, is where the unbreakable are forged, the ones who need no one to be invincible. And you know what's the hardest part? When someone betrays you, they don't just shatter your trust in them, they also break the image you had of yourself. Because if that person, the one you gave your affection, time, and secrets to, could destroy you without blinking, then what does that say about you? About your judgment, your discernment, your worth? Betrayal has two blades. One points outward, to them. The other stabs inward, to you. Because when someone betrays you, you don't just think, they failed me. You think something far more dangerous. I was foolish enough to believe they wouldn't. And that thought, that's the one that breaks you. Because it makes you doubt yourself. It shakes your grip on reality. It makes you question everything. It paralyzes you. And here's where the devastation lies. Betrayal doesn't just destroy relationships. It destroys identities. Your identity was tied to that person, that story, that trust. And when it all collapses, you're left without a ground to stand on. You don't know who you are anymore, because you can't look at yourself with the same eyes. You can't even trust your intuition. Do you see it now? Betrayal is an inner fracture. It doesn't stay in the act. It settles into your perception. It becomes an echo, a constant doubt, a wound no longer on the skin, but in the way you see everything. And the worst part? You learn to live with it. You learn to distrust everyone, to never show too much, to never fully give, to live halfway, believing that it protects you, when in truth, it just locks you away. Do you know what betrayal does? It turns you into what you swore you'd never be. Cold, calculating, shielded. But that shield, the one you think protects you, also keeps you from feeling, from connecting, from creating anything real. Betrayal leaves a scar so deep that if you're not careful, it turns you into a betrayer too. Because when trust dies, when everything feels like a threat, when you live anticipating the next wound, then, without knowing it, you betray yourself, your empathy, your essence, your ability to trust. It's the perfect cycle of trauma. I was hurt, so now I protect myself by hurting first. They won't betray me again, because I won't give them anything they could use against me. But there you are, alone, armed to the teeth, and hollow inside. And this is where something even darker appears: self-deception. After betrayal, the psyche activates a survival instinct, and one of its most subtle defenses is rewriting the story. You keep telling yourself it wasn't that important, that you saw it coming, that it didn't hurt, that it was for the best. But none of that is true. You do it to avoid breaking even more. And I understand you. Jung did too. We've all done it. But it's a slow poison. Because the more you suppress pain, the more you lose touch with yourself. You start creating false versions of who you are. Strong on the surface, shattered inside. Versions that smile while they bleed. That say, "I'm fine," while they quietly collapse. Want to know what Carl Jung would say about that? That you're drifting away from the self, that you're repressing your shadow, that you're denying your own humanity out of fear of suffering. Because betrayal forces you to choose. Either it destroys you or it transforms you. Here's a brutal truth. You cannot avoid betrayal, but you can choose what to do with the wound. You can let it rot you from the inside, or you can turn it into a mirror, one that shows you who you were, who you became in that relationship, what you ignored, what you tolerated, what piece of yourself you sold to hold on to something already broken. I know it sounds cruel, but there's a part of you that allowed the betrayal. You didn't cause it, but you did endure it. Because, at some level, we all know exactly who we're dealing with. We just pretend not to see when it benefits us. You cling to false signals. You ignore the red flags. You justify toxic behaviors because the need to feel loved, to belong, outweighs your instinct to protect yourself. Until one day, everything shatters, and there you are, alone, holding the fragments of a truth you never wanted to face. Then the deepest fear arrives. What if I can never trust again? And it's not just about the other. It's the world, the structure, the invisible threads of every connection. Everything feels corrupted. You believe loyalty no longer exists. But that's not the truth. Betrayal makes you see the world as a battlefield. But reality is more subtle. Not everyone will fail you. But you must learn to see differently, to watch what people do, not just what they say, to notice how they treat those who offer them nothing, to observe how they behave when no one's watching. Because that's where the truth lives, in the invisible. And yes, you'll have to let go of many connections. You'll need time alone. You'll need to rebuild your intuition from zero. But that's the only way back to yourself. Because betrayal isn't overcome with anger. It's healed through reconstruction. Rebuilding your inner world. Redefining your limits. Healing your identity. And when you do that, only then, you can trust again. Not blindly, not like before, but with clarity, with strength, with awareness, with open eyes. Don't let a betrayal define your entire story. But don't ignore it either. Don't drown the pain in noise. Don't pretend it didn't leave a mark. Because if you do, you're condemning yourself to repeat it. Watch it, study it, learn from it, then rise, wiser, colder, more selective, but never empty. Now let's go even deeper into the darkness. We already talked about the wounded ego, about rebuilding, but now we shift focus to something even more disturbing, the silent betrayal, the one you can't see at first, but it eats you alive. Not an action, but an absence, a quiet abandonment, a void. Listen closely, not all betrayals come with a knife. Some arrive disguised as indifference, as silence, as emotional distance, and those are the deadliest ones. You brace yourself for the obvious betrayal, the one that comes with conflict, shouting, a break. But you're not prepared for the passive betrayal, the one where the person you needed the most simply wasn't there. They didn't stab you in the back, but they stood by while others did. They didn't speak ill of you, but they stayed silent when everyone else did. They didn't hurt you actively, but they stopped caring for you when you needed it the most. And here comes the question that breaks your soul. Who hurt you more? The one who betrayed you, or the one who didn't defend you? That silence, that absence, that neutrality disguised as, I don't want to get involved. That's the kind of betrayal that wounds the deepest, because you're left speechless. You can't point it out. You can't accuse. There's no evidence, just a visceral feeling that someone who should have been there simply wasn't. And the saddest part? Sometimes that same person still tells you they love you, that they respect you, that they care. But they do it from a distance, with hollow words, lukewarm gestures, as if saying, I'm here, was enough, even when they're not. And you know what truly hurts about this silent betrayal? It forces you to realize you were more alone than you thought, that the safety net you believed in was just an illusion. And this brings us to a brutal truth: betrayal as disillusionment. Because when someone betrays you, it's not just the act that hurts, it's the collapse of an entire narrative, a story you built in your head. You had convinced yourself this person was different, that they would never do that to you, that you were special. But that story was false. You realize it wasn't a relationship between two real people. It was a relationship between you and the idea you had of them. And that's when the next crack appears. You start doubting your ability to see reality clearly. You don't know anymore if someone is truly loyal, or if you just need them to be. You begin projecting betrayal even where it doesn't exist, because now your mind runs a new program. Better to be cautious than to bleed again. But living that way isn't living. It's surviving. It's building walls so high even you can't climb out. Now comes the point no one dares to face. Sometimes the true traitor is you, toward yourself, because deep down you knew. There were signs, inconsistencies, uncomfortable silences, but you chose not to see them. You stayed quiet, tolerated, adapted, because your fear of losing that relationship was stronger than your love for yourself. And that is the hardest betrayal to admit, the one you inflicted on yourself. And do you know why you did it? Because you were addicted to hope, to fantasy, to the belief that if you gave your best, the other would finally see your worth. But that's a lie. Not everyone knows how to receive. Not everyone sees value. There are people who, no matter how much love you give them, will always feel empty, because their loyalty doesn't depend on your giving. It depends on their void. And here's the next truth. Some people betray not because you failed, but because their soul is broken. And that is not your burden to carry. You must understand. Some people can't hold on to anything healthy. When they come across something real, they sabotage it, not out of malice, but out of trauma, programming, emotional poverty. And you stood there thinking you could save them, heal them, teach them. But you cannot save someone who doesn't want to be saved. You cannot hold a relationship with someone who is used to destroying everything the moment it starts to work. And the worst part? When they betray you, they don't even see it as betrayal. They'll say you suffocated them, that they didn't feel like themselves, that they needed space, that they weren't ready. And you'll be left there, soul shattered, while they move on as if nothing happened. Because yes, some people can betray you and sleep like a baby. Why? Because they don't feel what you feel. Because they don't speak the same emotional language. Because for them, loyalty is just a word, not a commitment. And that's where you need to make a cut, a break, a reset. Because if you don't, you'll keep attracting the same kind of people. People who only love you when you're silent, when you don't demand, when you don't shine too brightly. That too is a form of betrayal. Betraying yourself just to be accepted. Do you know how many times you've dimmed your light so you wouldn't disturb others? How often have you hidden your strength, your talent, your ambition, just to avoid making others feel insecure? How many times have you allowed yourself to be invalidated, diminished, ignored, just so you wouldn't seem like too much? That's betrayal too, but one that moves from you toward yourself. Carl Jung once reminded us of the masks we wear. The world doesn't just ask us to conform, it demands we forget ourselves. And I'll tell you this, we suffer so deeply from betrayal that we've learned to rename it experience, lesson, life. But no, some things should never happen. And when they do, you must call them by their real name, betrayal. Don't dress them up. Don't edit them. Don't excuse them. Name them. Because only when you name them can you begin to heal. And more importantly, only then can you choose. Choose to never again place your soul in the hands of someone who cannot even hold their own. Choose not to shrink yourself to fit. Choose to be alone rather than poorly accompanied or mistreated. Here's one of the hardest truths. Most people don't want someone strong. They want someone manageable. So, if you decide to be free, authentic, unstoppable, prepare yourself. They will try to betray you, not because you're weak, but because your strength threatens them. It reminds them of everything they're too afraid to be. And that's the moment you'll realize you're no longer the victim. You've become the threat. Betrayal doesn't just reveal who others are. It reveals you. It shows your ability to rise, to become harder without becoming cruel, to trust again, but without blindness, to love, but never at the cost of your dignity. Because in the end, that's what saves you. Not that people stop betraying you, but that you learn not to let betrayal take away who you are. And that is power. And now that we've reached this point, I'm going to tell you something maybe no one has dared to tell you your whole life. Betrayal is the baptism of the strong. Yes, it hurts. It breaks you. It empties you. But it also awakens you. It initiates you. It rips the blindfold from your eyes, once and for all. Because before betrayal, you were only a version of yourself, edited, believing in fairy tales, eternal promises, unbreakable bonds. But after, you're bare, alone, raw, but real. And that, strange as it sounds, is the beginning of everything. The person who rises after betrayal is not the one who fell. They no longer need mirrors to define themselves. They no longer sell themselves for a drop of affection. They no longer confuse company with connection, attention with love, silence with peace. Betrayal is alchemy. It takes your innocence and melts it into wisdom. It takes your wound and, if you dare to face it, gives you back something no one can teach or sell: vision. And you know what someone who has seen betrayal in all its forms and survived becomes? Not paranoid, selective. They no longer need to fit in everywhere because they've realized not every space deserves them. They no longer beg for loyalty because they've learned real loyalty is silent. It doesn't need promises. If you know how to read betrayal, it shows you who deserves to see you up close and who was only ever near for their own comfort. That's why what once looked like a curse was really a cleansing. And if you've come this far, something in you already knows. Something shifted, something realigned. And you can't look at the world, at others, or at yourself the same anymore. Because you're not the same as when this message began. And that is priceless. So listen carefully. The next time someone betrays you, don't react like before. Don't beg for explanations. Don't give speeches. Don't threaten to leave. Don't cry in front of someone who has no soul to comfort you. Just leave, quietly, without drama, without turning back. Because betrayal only destroys those who don't know how to walk away. And if you've been waiting for a sign to let go of everything that no longer honors your soul, this is it. This is the moment. This is your silent scream, your unspoken permission, your farewell to all that once made you feel small. Now it's your turn. Your turn to become the kind of person who doesn't need applause to keep going, who no longer seeks redemption from those who have no soul left to offer. Someone who no longer begs for fairness from those already indebted to their own conscience. And if you've made it this far, it's not by chance. This video was never just entertainment. It was a mirror, an awakening, a ritual. Now the choice is yours, to decide what to do with what you've just seen. But if something deep inside stirred, If it touched something you've buried for too long, then do one thing. Subscribe, because this channel isn't for everyone. It's for those ready to break their masks, their excuses, their limits. And if you're one of them, leave a comment with this phrase: "I'm no longer who I was when this video began." That's how I'll know you're one of the awakened. I'll see you in the next one. But remember, the next time they betray you, underestimate you, ignore you, don't let them find you in the same place. Disappear from where you were never valued. Reappear where no one expected you. That's where real power begins. And you've just crossed that threshold. Welcome. Or better said, welcome back to yourself. See you in the shadows.
Carl Jung left us an immense legacy filled with wisdom about the mysteries of the human mind. But there is something few people know. Everything we experience begins in our thoughts. What you think not only shapes how you perceive the world, it literally defines the quality of your life. However, most people live trapped in an internal dialogue they did not consciously choose, tangled in thought patterns that seem impossible to control. But what if I told you there's a secret behind all of this? A knowledge that, if applied, could change everything. Jung believed that our mind is divided between the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious part is where we believe we have control. The decisions we make, the opinions we express, what we rationalize. But in reality, most of our actions and thoughts are guided by the unconscious, a hidden engine that directs our lives without us even noticing. This means that many of the thoughts that torment you, those that seem to appear out of nowhere and make you doubt, fear, or even sabotage yourself, come from deep layers of your mind that you have yet to explore. The problem is that no one teaches us how to dialogue with our unconscious. We grow up thinking that if we ignore negative thoughts, they will disappear. But Jung warns us that what we repress does not vanish. It simply hides, accumulating strength until it eventually takes control of our lives in ways we do not understand. Those recurring thoughts, those emotions you cannot explain, are your unconscious trying to communicate something. Now, imagine that your mind is like a vast forest. The sunlight represents your consciousness, and the dark corners where no light ever reaches are your unconscious. Those corners are filled with shadows, but they are not your enemies. In fact, Jung tells us that facing our shadows is the key to regaining control over our lives, because those shadows are nothing more than parts of yourself that you have rejected, parts that need to be seen, heard, and integrated. Think about how many times you have found yourself trapped in a cycle of negative thoughts. Maybe you tell yourself that you are not good enough, that you will never succeed, or that there is always something holding you back. Have you ever wondered where those ideas come from? They are not absolute truths. They are the result of unconscious patterns you have accumulated throughout your life, influenced by your experiences, fears, and the expectations others have imposed on you. Jung invites us to challenge those thoughts, to pause and ask ourselves, is this really true, or is it just a belief I have accepted without questioning? When you start doing this, something magical happens. You realize that you do not have to be a slave to your thoughts. You can observe them without letting them control you. And most importantly, you can choose which ones deserve your attention and which do not. The problem is that we live in a society that has taught us to ignore our inner world. We are so focused on external noise, work, social media, the opinions of others, that we rarely take the time to look inward. But Jung believed that true change does not happen outside of us. It begins within. It's like a plant. You can't expect it to bloom if you don't take care of its roots. And those roots are your thoughts, your beliefs, and your connection to your unconscious. Let me share something powerful with you. Your thoughts are not the enemy. Even the negative ones serve a purpose. Jung taught us that every thought, every emotion, is like a messenger bringing valuable information about ourselves. But to receive that message, you must learn to listen without judgment. Instead of fighting your thoughts, observe them. Ask them what they are trying to tell you. And most importantly, remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the observer behind them. the one who has the power to decide what to do with them. When you start relating to your thoughts this way, a radical shift occurs. You no longer feel trapped in an endless loop of doubt and worry. Instead, you discover a clarity and inner peace you may have never experienced before. And from that place of calm, you can begin to create the life you truly desire. But how do you reach that state of mental clarity and control over your thoughts? Jung said that the first step is recognizing that not everything that passes through your mind truly belongs to you. Many of your thoughts are echoes of beliefs and fears you inherited from your parents, from society, or even from past experiences you never fully processed. They are not yours, but they have been with you for so long that you accept them as absolute truth. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you doubted yourself before trying something new? That voice that says, "What if you fail? What if you're not good enough?" is not yours. It is a reflection of all the times someone else doubted you or projected their own fears onto you. Jung described this as the power of the collective shadow, a buildup of unconscious patterns and energies that affect entire groups of people. But here's the good news. You can free yourself from that influence. How? By starting to pay attention to your thoughts without automatically reacting to them. When you hear that negative voice in your mind, instead of believing it, ask it questions. Why are you here? What are you trying to protect? Because behind every seemingly negative thought, there's a hidden intention. Maybe that voice that criticizes you is just trying to keep you safe, to stop you from taking risks so you don't get hurt. But the truth is that protection is no longer necessary. You are stronger than you think. And now, you have the power to choose a different path. Jung deeply believed in the concept of individuation, which is nothing more than the process of becoming who you truly are, not the person others expect you to be, nor the one you try to fit in, but your authentic self, the one that is in tune with your values, your dreams, and your purpose. To achieve this, you need to face your shadows. Those parts of yourself you've been ignoring because you believe they were bad or unacceptable. Let me give you an example. Think of an aspect of yourself that you've always tried to hide. Maybe it's a fear, an insecurity, or even a dream you consider unattainable. Now, imagine that instead of rejecting that part of yourself, you choose to embrace it. Jung taught us that when we integrate our shadows, we reclaim an immense amount of energy. It's like unblocking a river that has been obstructed for years. That energy, once repressed, is now available for you to use on what truly matters. But here's something important you need to understand. This process doesn't happen overnight. It is continuous work, a commitment to yourself to be honest and brave. There will be days when you feel frustrated, when your old thought patterns try to return. But every time you choose to confront them instead of running away, you take a step toward your freedom. Controlling your thoughts isn't about eliminating them or avoiding negative ones. It's about creating a relationship with them, understanding that they are tools you can use to your advantage. Jung said that our unconscious mind has its own language, and that language consists of symbols, dreams, and emotions. So instead of fighting against your mind, learn to decode its messages. What is your anxiety trying to tell you? What does that recurring dream mean? What emotion is hiding behind that feeling of dissatisfaction? When you start exploring these questions, something incredible happens. Your mind stops feeling like a battlefield and becomes an ally. You are no longer at war with your thoughts. Instead, you work with them to build the life you desire. And that, according to Jung, is the true power of the human being. The ability to transform their inner experience to create an external reality more aligned with their essence. Now, imagine for a moment what your life would be like if you had that control. If, instead of feeling dragged by an avalanche of thoughts, you could observe them, understand them, and consciously choose how to respond. This is not some distant dream. It's something Jung believed we are all capable of achieving if we do the necessary work. One of Jung's deepest concepts is the idea of projection. Have you ever noticed that the things that bother you the most about others are often reflections of something within you that you don't want to see? Maybe you criticize someone for being arrogant, but deep down, that arrogance is an aspect of yourself that you've repressed. Or perhaps you feel jealous of someone because they represent a dream you left behind. Jung said that our relationships are mirrors, and what we project onto others gives us clues about the parts of ourselves we have yet to integrate. This is key to controlling your thoughts. Because if you understand that much of what you experience as external problems are actually reflections of your inner world, you can begin to shift your perspective. The next time something or someone triggers an intense reaction in you, pause and ask yourself, what is this showing me about myself? That simple question can completely transform the way you see the world, and more importantly, the way you manage your thoughts. Another powerful tool Jung left us is the importance of rituals and introspection. In our modern lives, we have lost connection with these sacred moments of pause and reflection. But a ritual doesn't have to be complicated or religious. It can be as simple as setting aside a few minutes each day to journal, meditate, or just sit in silence and observe your thoughts without judgment. This space for connecting with yourself is essential for beginning to decode the messages of your unconscious mind. And here comes something that may sound revolutionary. Your thoughts don't need to be perfect for you to have peace. Jung taught us that perfection is not the goal. Integration is. That means learning to accept both the light and the darkness within you. Because only when you fully accept yourself can you stop fighting against your own mind and start living with true authenticity. This brings us to a crucial point: authenticity. Living authentically doesn't mean you are always happy or that everything in your life is perfect. It means you are aligned with yourself, that you don't need to wear masks or pretend to be someone you're not in order to feel valuable. Jung believed that one of the main causes of human suffering is this disconnection between who we truly are and who we think we should be, and that disconnection starts in your thoughts. Have you ever stopped to listen to the narrative running through your mind all day? Maybe you tell yourself things like, I should have done this better, I'm not enough, or I'll never make it. These kinds of thoughts not only drain you, but also create an internal reality that affects everything you do. But here's the secret. You don't have to accept that narrative. You can change it. And by doing so, you can transform your life. This doesn't mean simply repeating positive affirmations and expecting everything to magically improve. Jung taught us that real change comes from deep work, from facing your shadows and transforming the beliefs that no longer serve you. Because when you change your internal narrative, your perception of the world also shifts. What once seemed impossible now becomes an opportunity, and the right people and experiences start appearing in your life as if by magic. That magic we're talking about, that synchronicity that seems to connect everything in your life when you are aligned with yourself, is no accident. Carl Jung described this phenomenon as synchronicity, a principle that explains how seemingly unrelated events can be deeply connected by an internal meaning. When you begin working on your mind, when you face your shadows and consciously choose your thoughts, something changes in your energy. It is as if the universe responds to that internal transformation by aligning external circumstances in your favor. But how can you cultivate that alignment? It all starts with something very simple, yet often overlooked: self-observation. Jung told us that the first step to controlling your mind is to observe it without judgment. Think of your thoughts as clouds in the sky. Some are dark and storm-laden, while others are light and bright. But none of them are permanent. Learning to observe your thoughts without automatically reacting allows you to discover something powerful. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer behind them. This simple act of observation, of creating a space between you and your mind, can completely transform how you relate to your thoughts. When you realize that you don't have to be a slave to them, you begin to reclaim your power. That critical voice that sometimes keeps you up at night loses its strength when you stop feeding it with your attention. Jung would say that, at that moment, you are taking a step toward individuation, toward becoming the person you are meant to be. But this path is not always easy. There will be moments when your negative thoughts seem stronger than ever, as if they are trying to keep you trapped in old patterns. In those moments, remember this. You are not fighting against your thoughts. You are learning to understand them. Every time a negative thought arises, instead of rejecting it, see it as an opportunity to learn something about yourself. Ask yourself, where is this coming from? What part of me is seeking to be heard? Jung taught us that our negative thoughts are like alarm signals. They are not there to sabotage you, but to show you where you need to heal, where you have lost connection with yourself. By facing them, listening to them, and working with them, you begin to dismantle their power. Little by little, you discover that what once seemed like a weakness or an obstacle is actually a doorway to your transformation. Think of it this way. Every time you choose to face your thoughts instead of running from them, you are building your inner strength. You are proving that you have the courage to look within, to explore the deepest and sometimes most uncomfortable parts of your mind. This strength not only transforms your relationship with yourself, but also with the world around you. This brings us to another fundamental point that Jung emphasized, the importance of living with purpose. When your thoughts align with your purpose, everything in your life begins to flow. But finding that purpose requires disconnecting from external noise and connecting with your intuition, that inner voice that always knows what is best for you in a world full of distractions. Learning to listen to that voice can be one of the greatest challenges, but it is also one of the most powerful acts you can do for yourself. It is not about having all the answers immediately. Sometimes, purpose does not reveal itself in a moment of clarity, but in the small steps you take every day toward what truly makes you feel alive. Jung taught us that life is not a destination, but a continuous journey of self-discovery, and your thoughts are an essential part of that journey. When you begin to align your thoughts with your essence, with who you truly are, you not only change your life, but also inspire those around you. Jung believed that when a person works on their own transformation, they create a profound impact on the world. Your thoughts are energy, and that energy does not just affect your reality, but also that of those you interact with. Every step you take toward your authenticity is an invitation for others to do the same. Think about what could happen if each of us decided to take control of our minds, face our shadows, and live authentically. We would witness a collective shift, a wave of transformation that begins deep within us and extends outward, reaching every corner of our lives and communities. But this change starts with you, not with someone else, not with something external, but with you. In this moment, choose to observe your thoughts, integrate your shadows, and embrace the power that has always been within you. Because when you transform, the world around you does too. The journey of transformation is not always easy, but it is the most rewarding path you will ever walk. Every thought you align with your true self, every fear you overcome, and every step you take toward authenticity brings you closer to the life you were meant to live. Growth is not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about deciding here and now that you will no longer live on autopilot, that you will take full control of your mind, your beliefs, and your destiny. Too often we let fear, doubt, and external opinions dictate the course of our lives. We silence our inner voice, ignoring that deep wisdom that has always been there, patiently waiting for us to listen. But the truth is, you are more powerful than you have ever imagined. The thoughts you hold, the beliefs you cultivate, and the energy you radiate shape your reality every single day. The way you see yourself determines the life you create. And the moment you decide to shift your mindset, everything around you begins to shift as well. Jung taught us that true transformation happens when we integrate the parts of ourselves we once rejected. When we stop running from our shadows and instead embrace them, we unlock an unstoppable force within us. Imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you lived in complete alignment with your highest self. No more self-doubt, no more limiting beliefs, just pure, unshakable confidence in who you are and the path you are walking. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that you are stepping into your full potential, that you are creating the life you truly desire. That is what awaits you when you commit to this journey. And this journey is not just about you. It's about the collective shift we can create together. Imagine a world where more people woke up to their true power, where we all chose to break free from mental conditioning, to face our fears, and to step into the greatness we were born for. The world changes when we change. The more people awaken, the greater the ripple effect we create. So, if this message resonated with you, if you feel the call to step into your highest potential, don't keep this journey to yourself. Help spread this energy. Subscribe to the channel and be part of this movement of transformation. Hit the like button if you're ready to take control of your thoughts and manifest the reality you deserve. And most importantly, share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. Because you never know, your action today could be the spark that ignites someone else's transformation. Your journey starts now. The question is, will you take the first step? The choice is yours. See you soon. Don't miss our upcoming videos. We have so much more to share with you. And if you enjoyed this one, I invite you to check out our other videos for more insights, inspiration, and powerful lessons. Your journey is just beginning,